On September 11, 2025, Bethan Hart, an activist, asked Yara Shahidi, activist, in a Forbes interview on how she felt about her world right now. Yara answered honestly by saying she is terrified and would like a plan to fix it. I empathize in that no one should live in fear. In my opinion, this sounds like a plea for help. I want to help, but how? When Yara Shahidi was younger, she did an equality speech on October 19, 2018 at the Gleason Respect Awards. I argue this speech is the hypothesis to fix her world and reduce her fear. In April 2024, I published my book on Amazon based on this hypothesis, showing that prevention will lead to equity and that equity will lead to equality. This hypothesis will fix the political, economic, and social problems in her world and our world. This non-profit, non-edited channel is a letter to Yara Shahidi in teaching Yara's hypothesis to the public in order to better our world. In the end, Yara Shahidi will get the Nobel Peace Prize for her hypothesis. This is part 2 of this chapter 14, Information Equality, part 2. Dear Yara Shahidi. My first part 2. How? Well, as I mentioned before, in Lamana Plus and in individual education, the IP will be designed to help students understand and turn off propaganda that can lead to personal and political truths taking hold. Students will only rely on objective truths when they get older. In this way, propaganda will be a tool only to be used as a teaching source in what not to do in the real world. I argue that the fines should be universal across the industry as well. As mentioned before, politicians, journalists, and businesses, as well as governments, are very powerful when it comes to promoting information. If they ever promote propaganda, then it can be used to manipulate the truth, and people will start to believe it as personal and political truths for their own agenda. In actuality, some businesses are promoting propaganda as a business model, and they are profiting from their manipulation of misinformation to the public. For example, some companies are using political journalism to push propaganda in order to push frustration and anger into a cultural war for ratings. These ratings have their audience members watch their advertisers push products in the hopes they will buy the advertised products. With higher ratings, then this means the political journalism companies can charge more money to the advertisers for more profit over responsible journalism to their audience. Also, some social media companies use algorithms to push people to propaganda websites. Just like with the journalism companies, this business model manipulates their audience in order to push more advertising so that the company can charge more money. The bottom line is the profit margin. Lastly, politicians are making money from donations for their campaigns to be elected by pushing propaganda narratives for social media and journalism companies. All this propaganda for profit is used to influence people's opinions and to control their behavior, while companies and politicians profit from this manipulation. What can be done about this? Now, if a politician, journalist, or company of any kind comes out with a claim about the moon made out of green cheese, then people will pick up a science journal to see if it is true. Once everyone knows it is not made from cheese, then the ethics firm will send a notice to that politician, journalist, or company of any kind to retract their claim to prove it. If they can't prove it, then they have to retract their claim on buying if they can't prove it, then they have to retract their claim on buying a full page 1 spread in a scientific journal. If a politician, journalist, or company of any kind still pushes the claim, then the politician, journalist, or company of any kind should be fined under an ethics violation for a stern amount of money. I argue the fine should be a quarter of their yearly salary or profit margin for the first violation, half for the second, and 3/4 for the third, etc. With each step having a retraction on what they said on page 1. With politicians and journalists and internet contributors to celebrities pushing products, they should all get an individual business license because they are acting like their own business in serving the public by representing truth to serve their audiences. In these individual business licenses, they will be judged under business ethics just like any other business. If they have 3 ethic violations, then their business license will be removed. They can get it back by paying off their fines and taking and passing numerous ethic classes to understand business ethics properly. Regular businesses across the industry should also be governed the same way as well. My last argument for this chapter is for information equality is Consumer Reports and data. Consumer Reports is an independent nonprofit member organization that works side by side with consumers for truth, Consumer Reports is an independent nonprofit member organization that works side by side with consumers for truth, transparency, and fairness in the marketplace. Non-edited. As before, students will learn to use Consumer Reports as an information palette on how to use the marketplace as well. Consumer Reports uses rigorous scientific studies to see how products last, how good the product is, and then ranks them according to their findings. Instead of advertisement to grab a customer's attention, students who become adults will use Consumer Reports quality scale on products to know what type of quality they can get from the cheapest for the cheapest price. For example, after consumers are trained in Consumer Reports, then they will know if 4-ply toilet paper is better to clean your butt than 2-ply toilet paper, or is 4-ply toilet paper all hype and commercials pushing status on the consumer. The consumer will be able to choose wisely. Commercials can be full of propaganda and not transparent on what really is in their product. When consumers finally get trained in using Consumer Reports, then businesses will have no choice but to have their products tested and scored and ranked for their customers to see what they are all about. In the end, the consumer wins. Better products are built by industry, and no more snake oil given to customers because transparency and understanding will be achieved for the individual through science and objective truth in Consumer Reports. For the future, a type of Consumer Reports business or nonprofit business should be at the local and state levels, ranking local and state businesses on their products and services as it is on the national level. The last thing is data. When people conduct business in whatever form they believe they have a product or service useful to the public that can give them a living. Now, most businesses want to be left in peace with their own customers, with government not telling them how to run their business. Most people do not like being told what to do. I will say this 1,000 times, in that government works well over a short period of time, but it is awful over a long period of time. If a person watches 60 Minutes on CBS or Frontline on PBS, then this person will have many examples of proof of this statement. Anyways, the compromise is data between government outreach and the independence of the person with their business. Now, if a private or public or nonprofit company of any size gets a whistleblower of any kind, then the business should report their data to a science journal for publication and showing no misdeeds were being done instead of having a government investigation. With the raw data, scientists are usually good at reporting and interpreting what is going on. In this way, businesses can be cleared of any wrongdoing from a scientific lens, from multiple science journal publications by each looking at the data independently. In the end, capitalism only works well for competition if it is fair to everybody with transparent intentions. Now, say a business like a restaurant is inspected by a restaurant inspector from a government agency, and the restaurant business feels they are getting shafted by the inspector. Unedited. Sorry. Well, this is where data comes in. The inspector now and forever should conduct their inspection by recording what they are doing and then narrating each thing they are doing. It would be like an episode of This Old House on PBS. In this series, they perform their tasks on building houses by informing and narrating to the audience on what they are doing. The inspector would apply the same methods in his or her recordings or non-binary recordings, like on This Old House, and perform and narrate a task by showing the task and by showing the taking of the temperature of the meat being served in the restaurant that night. The inspector will show in real time, when recorded, the independent temperature they received accepted by law to kill bacteria. I think it's 165 degrees. Once done, then the inspector gives a tape of the inspection to the owners of the restaurant, and after a month, without any protest from the owners, will publish their findings in a Consumer Reports magazine or a scientific journal for the public to see that it is safe to eat at this restaurant. Now, if there is a protest from the owners of the restaurant about the inspection, if there is a protest from the owners of the restaurant, I read that right, about the inspector and a fine given, then the owners will step right in front of an ethics judge to determine fault from either party. All the ethics judge has to do is verify fault by watching the tape given to both parties. Now, if the ethics judge rules in favor of the restaurant owners, then the inspector has to pay for the court costs. If the restaurant owners are at fault, then the restaurant owners pay the fine. And the court costs. In all of this, everything is transparent to all parties, and an independent person, educated in ethics law, the judge, rules who is at fault. In the end of every year, judges will be evaluated and studied by scientists in studies to determine the fairness and ethics given by each court case and by all the court cases in that given year. Now, the great thing about data in this case is that if the restaurant owner still thinks they were given an unfair case, then they can go to another ethics judge to see if there were any misgivings in the ethics court case. If there were, then the judge can go through the data of the first judge and inspector on that data to see of any patterns of ethics violations between the two. The data will also be public record for the public to evaluate any misgivings as well. If the restaurant owners are found guilty, then they have to pay both court costs from both judges and the fine from the restaurant inspector. But if they are found innocent, then they're free from any costs whatsoever. In the end, the little guy can fight against the government in a fair hearing. The great thing about this demonstration of information equality is that vendors, construction workers, doctors, dentists, brokers, pilots, plumbers, models, retailers, fast food workers, fast food makers, etc. can all do a This Old House information talk through of their performance. For example, a doctor can talk their way through an examination process with the patient, or by recording what they are doing and thinking in surgery in real time with the evidence presented to them at the time. There will be transparency of the performance being recorded in real time. With people in construction, doctors, dentists, etc., they have to pay for expensive insurance, which is given out to the customer to pay in higher prices so they can stay in business. Now, with transparency recordings given to customers suing these Now, with transparency recordings given to customers Suing these businesses will be harder to do unless the customer can prove negligence in the video that the ethics judge is watching. This means insurance prices will go down for companies, doctors, construction workers, dentists, etc. Plus, they will charge a lot less to customers. With this, lawyers will be sought after a lot less, and other specialists in the field will be in demand to see if there was any fault with the work on the tape. In the end, businesses win with less insurance to be paid out and with less time defending themselves in court. Plus, consumers win with lower prices and in getting a good product or a service that is ranked in consumer reports. No commercials. The best part about these ethic and scientific firms is that they will comb through all of the industries searching for malice in the U.S. This will be their profit margin. If a newscaster is promoting propaganda, a network is promoting fear for their profit margin, a company is promoting snake oil to scam their customers, or preachers using conspiracy theories in their teaching, then they will be sued with the evidence these firms have. This just shows that manipulation can be everywhere, from churches to businesses, because everything deals with information. For example, the U.S. recognizes churches as non-profit businesses, and religion is a business in dealing in information about the afterlife, so to speak. Anyways, information is in all things, and people use this information to know this world. This is why ethics and scientific industry firms will be the biggest on earth. Another way to enforce ethics in business is through the government. I'm not a big fan of the government, but this is another way to do it. The government can expand into a new department called the Department of Ethics and Morality. This department, just like the ethic and scientific firms, will search for businesses that are selling snake oil, using propaganda, using conspiracy theories, hurting or manipulating people, etc. Now, to clarify, this doesn't mean disqualifying anyone's First Amendment rights, like on social media. For example, if a person has a Facebook page, YouTube page, TikTok page, Instagram, etc., then a person has followers on the content they're showing on these social media platforms. When the platform or social media post has more than 50 subscribers or followers, as an example, then this becomes a business and comes under the rules of the Department of Ethics. Usually people who have a public social media account shows that this person wants to be noticed or draw on more people to notice their pictures, talents, or understanding about something. Again, this is a business of selling yourself to the public, and this form of advertisement, in a way, is the beginning of a business to become a minor celebrity. This would be a business to be declared through this department, and it would be scrutinized under the supervision of ethics. Now, if you comment on another person's page, this is still free speech and not under the supervision of ethics. The comments are part of the business model for fans, business clients, or people just browsing the page to comment on the material being shown. This again is First Amendment opinion on anything this person wants to say, and it is protected under the First Amendment. Now, if a person has a social media public presence, they will be subjected to fines and regulations under the Department of Ethics. This person can challenge these fines, as stated before, with other businesses in front of an ethics judge. If this person gets 3 ethic violations, then their business license is revoked. This person then has to take ethical classes as their expense and pay a fine to get their business license back. After that, they can get back on social media as a public entrepreneur. Now, with each ethical violation, the person can challenge it in ethical court, as stated before. But if they lose, then they have to pay the fine and court costs. If the business wins, then they are free, and the Department of Ethics has to pay for the court costs. As stated before, with each loss in ethical court, as with land-based businesses, the person has to write a retraction on their ethical loss in a scientific journal showing that they were wrong and the content that they were playing for, that infraction was wrong as well, or pushing for, The best thing about the court cases in front of an ethics judge is that all the judge has to do is read or watch the posts on the accused's social media account to see if it violates any ethical issues, like with conspiracy theories or propaganda. It is a real open and shut case. Now with the morality department of this government entity, this will be a council of religious academics on morally judging religious institutions like churches, mosques, synagogues, etc. This department will have every popular denomination like Christian, Islam, Jewish, atheist, Buddhist, Hindu, Sikhism, Wiccan, the spirits, agnostic, etc., appointed by the public to represent their interests or appointed by a president or governor of a state. This department will be legal because the Constitution says that Congress shall make no law representing and establish an... This department will be legal because the Constitution says that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. This department is a loophole because it brings together all religions recognized by the United States to judge other religious institutions so that religious institutions cannot manipulate the people in any way, using conspiracy theories, use propaganda to promote hate, and to have their people question their religious institutions with facts so that everyone can see the truth of what the religion is all about without the promotion of one religion superior to another. This department is to promote shared religious harmony with all religions here in the U.S. This morality department will also give out non-profit religious licenses to whoever wants to start a religion or philosophical nonprofit business like a church, mosque, synagogue, or something that represents a new religion or a philosophy or a philosophy community. This nonprofit religious or philosophical business license will be given out to people who have completed a master's degree or PhD in religious or philosophical studies being published and ethically reviewed. Plus, these students will be knowledgeable of simulation microloans, bank loans, and business school. They will also consult with an economic strategist. This will be explained more later. The point with the publishing is so that the department can follow this person's understanding and knowledge base of the religion or philosophical nonprofit business they want to open. Each religious institution is also tax exempt. Now, if the department gives the institution 3 violations, then this institution will no longer be tax exempt, and they would have to pay taxes. They would also have to get a new nonprofit religion or philosophical business license again. If the religious institution wants to be tax exempt and get their nonprofit religious or philosophical business license again, then the patrons running the institution will have to take moral and ethic classes at their expense and pay the fines. I would like this department to adhere to the rules Norway has on their religious institutions as well. In Norway, it says that if any religious or philosophical community or individuals acting on behalf of that institution commits violence or coercion, make threats, violates children's rights, violates statutory discrimination, seriously violates the rights and freedoms of others, then this institution will be punished by being denied tax-exempt status. Just like before, the people in the religious institution can challenge the fines in front of an ethics judge. The judge makes the decision. If the religious institution is found guilty, they have to pay the fines and the court costs. If the religious institution is found innocent, then the people are set free and the department has to pay their court costs. As stated before, with each loss in ethical court, as with land-based businesses, the religious institution has to write a retraction on their ethical loss in a scientific journal showing that they were wrong and that the content that they were promoting and showing for that infraction was wrong as well. In the end, it is many religious institutions looking after the best interests of what is moral and ethical with religion itself. This means no one will be manipulated again by fraudulent means, and people can finally serve God in a moral and ethical way again. In the end, religions can be a good thing for society. As mentioned before, they can take care of people in need, from poor people to people in disasters. They can help people make social connections through making friends. This can help make people live happier lives and live a longer life. Religion can help people believe in something bigger than themselves in the hopes that there is a loving God and to one day see their lost relatives again. Plus, praying has meditational benefits for less stress. Now, if religions prescribe to these notions described above as a non-profit ethical business with morality stories, then propaganda and con artists will never manifest, especially if students to adults are scientifically taught. Religion can be good for society and humans will hopefully find God. This will be explained later. This is still just a small amount in getting Dr. King's dream of equality for all started. Capitalism can work within the realm of science and ethics with published information for everyone to see. This is why information equality is so important. Humans are social creatures and are dependent on information, and this is why propaganda cannot be used in the American dream. So, Ichini Sanchi Go, Kuju, Konnichiwa, La Lune, Oui, Hola, buenos dias, adios, we all went together, de nada.